This is an anonymous tip to the Central Intelligence Agency on behalf of Operations Officer Windfall. This is just a tip. It's a test for a tip. Mostly it's a trial balloon. So, as you're aware, and I'm sure you are, it was reported in the news, international news, that off of the coast of Japan a few days ago, there was an eruption that created a new piece of real estate, a new piece of land, an atoll. This is not actually what happened. What happened was, because of these nefarious, tendencies of terrorists, they took a tactical nuclear weapon that was taken from the Air National Guard weapons depository in Indiana in 1970 because of Governor Rhodes' belief that eventually the United States would turn into, a battle zone between good and evil, left and right, etc., etc. New civil war. And he didn't want to lie back and just pretend it was going to happen. So this is after Kent State. So he authorized a mission, used several cutouts. He requested that one of the tactical nuclear weapons, probably sort of like on the order of the Davy Crockett tactical weapon, was dialable up to, I believe, 5 kilotons. It's a dialable weapon. They authorized its theft, and it was covered up in the inventory. This weapon was buried on Ohio State University land approximately at the time of the theft. It was dug up in 2008. Anyway, this tactical nuclear weapon was, its existence was discovered by terrorists. And these terrorists took this weapon along with more fissionable material that they acquired from North Korea. And they reverse engineered it. So they developed 3 more tactical weapons about the same yield. Now, one of these tactical weapons they took to this area in the Pacific where they'd already been doing drilling for some reason or another under the ocean, and they put the weapon down in the ocean, and then on top of it, it's sort of like a reentry cone or something, they put a MOAB. They had Chinese technology, and of course the terrorists, sort of like Al-Qaeda but different, had authorized the construction of 2 MOAB type weapons, and one of those weapons was set on top this tactical bomb. This bomb was set off under the ocean, deep under the ocean floor, which propelled the MOAB up and out when it exploded. And this was a test, this 2-part system to take a tactical weapon, bury it in the ground so it resembles an earthquake, and then use a MOAB to kind of like replicate the effects of, a volcanic explosion or eruption. So the idea was to disguise what would be normally considered a terror attack as a natural event. So that's what they did. They tested it, and it worked, but it was covered up because the Japanese have some fairly sizable corruption problems. Anyway, not all of them, but some of them. Now, as you know, several months ago, now remember, this is in the vein of a screenplay and or a cult experience, or whatever you want. A plan of action, a test case. But Air Force One was sabotaged with 2 weapons, very small weapons, that were secreted on the aircraft wings and could not be removed. And so, to prevent the president from dying in the plane crash, would be caused by the detonation of these weapons, the Air Force remotely piloted the aircraft up and somewhere over Utah. They destroyed it, but it was not seen or understood by anyone except, of course, those with the most high clearance. Now, with that in mind, the president is on a West Coast trip. He's in the air right now. It is approximately 3:25 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I have been told from this anonymous person who represents themselves as an attorney for the so-called operations officer agent Windfall, that they believe that the president is at risk because they're trying to find a way to use this bizarre set of weapons that they have developed to knock down the president's aircraft when he flies into cities in and around West Coast in the United States. That being said, it is more probable, if you're a betting man, of course I'm not, I'm a woman. I'm the girlfriend of the president. Now you believe that? Okay. Now you're cooking, baby. Now you're cooking. Anyway, they have planted by some means or method, according to sources, that this so-called representative for Operations Officer Windfall, a tracking device or a homing device on the tires of the of Air Force One. And this tracking device, homing device, will allow them to target or pinpoint exactly where the president's plane is on its approach to SeaTac and other places on the West Coast. In addition to that, there is a man at the shelter called the DESC, whose apparent name is Johnny, but that's not his real name. Who's been making detailed drawings, schematics for the terrorists, so they could essentially, well, plan their plot. But more importantly, should their layout be discovered, their lair, then Superman's Fortress of Solitude, then they plan to use conventional missiles to fire at the president's aircraft. And those missiles are, in fact, some basic surface-to-air missiles, and they will use them to try to bring down the aircraft. Anyway, here's the key point. The key point, according to my information from this representative of the operations officer, codename Windfall, that when an alarm is signaled aboard the aircraft as it approaches an airport or takes off from an airport, signaling the problem with the fuel supply, the possible flame out, this will initiate a series of events that will activate the homing device, and as a consequence, they will fire the missiles or use this more exotic set of weapons, i.e. the tactical nuke / Moab. Anyway, but in any case, it's a serious problem. So I don't know if you can actually take the wheels off of the plane, but that might be an idea, or drop them into the ocean. That might be an idea. But in any case, you don't want the plane knocked down, do you? Now, as far as investigating where this assembly of exotic weapons, i.e. the tactical weapon, tactical nuclear weapon, and or the Moab I believe they probably already planted it in the place they plan to use it, which I believe is in San Francisco. That's according to the information I received in the funny papers. I like the funny papers because they're so funny. But I'm not funny. I'm unhappy about this whole thing. So that's all I can say, except it seems more logical, more likely, to use surface-to-air missiles against the president's plane. Who am I? I'm the devil's advocate. Look at that. Look at that. Is that pretty? What the hell that is? What is that? Big old piece of shit.